We're here in Monte Carlo for the Rendez-Vous de Septembre. For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks. And I'm joined now by Albert Benchimol, who's the CEO and president of Axis. Albert, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So it's a very different landscape since the industry last met in Monte Carlo. How are people approaching the Rendezvous this year?
I think there are really two, if you would, countervailing factors here. On the one hand, there's no question that we've gone through 3 very difficult years since 2019. We've had COVID, we've had the war in Ukraine, we've seen inflation, obviously the impact of climate change on secondary events. And so there's a real need for more discipline and for price increases. On the other hand, those what might be difficult conversations are also being held in an atmosphere of real pleasure of being able to get back together in person again. This is an industry that is really based on relationships, and the idea of getting back together again is making a lot of people very happy.
So those conversations involve potentially talking about the hard market, and it's potentially a first hard market that a lot of people will have been through. You will have been through several market cycles. What should we be looking out for, and where might the surprises come from?
That's a nice way of saying I look old, but that's all right. I think that I wouldn't use the term hard market for much more than potentially low-layer cat and cyber. And by that, I'm using the definition of hard market where there may not be enough supply to meet the demand. In almost every other line of business, there is certainly a balance of supply and demand. I think it's about getting the right terms and conditions. But there is no doubt that with regards to lower layer cat coverage, that's going to be tough given the experience of the last few years. And cyber is one where it's a good product, it's a great product, but the demand is huge. And we do need to make sure that we sustain enough capital for the tail events. But by and large, I would say it's not a hard market overall, just for 2 lines.
So talking about property cat, Axis is one of the companies that has decided to scale back a little bit. How did you come to that decision?
Well, the decision to exit property and catastrophe reinsurance is not a call on the market, because as we've just discussed, we expect it's going to be a very hard market. Pricing will go up. It's really about the evolution of our company, and we've been evolving towards being a specialty underwriter that is now in large majority an insurer versus a reinsurer. And frankly, as a specialty underwriter, the goal here is to deliver strong but also consistent profitability. And in the world of catastrophe today, that consistency is not available with a large cat exposure. And so in the context of our strategic goals, we felt it was best to give clarity to our customers, our producers, about our risk appetite going forward.
Axis is 20 years old now, just celebrated its anniversary. Not all of the class of 2001, 2002 have stayed the course. What do you attribute the longevity to?
Well, it's been quite a ride, and I think the first part of that ride is a requirement for agility. The market's changed over these last 20 years, and so I think one needs to be agile and move, in the direction that makes the most sense. I would say the first thing. The second, I have to say, is the talent of our people. We've always been very fortunate to have a culture that we've worked on, but that attracts and retains great people. And those relationships, the service that we provide to our customers is such that there's always been a real need and a role for Axis in the environment. And I think when you're true to your purpose and you have the right people and you're sufficiently agile to respond to market conditions, there's a bright future for companies.
Axis, like AM Best, is a signatory of the UN Principles for Sustainable Insurance. Given the geopolitical situation, to what extent are there challenges to that sustainability agenda?
Well, let's first start that we only have one planet, and we will only succeed if we work together as a society. And so the goals of ESG are very important. But you're referring, I'm quite sure, to the invasion of Ukraine and the impacts on energy. I think at the end of the day, climate change does not read the newspapers. Climate change does not talk about war. It's going to happen if we don't do anything about it. There is no doubt that in the near term, at least, there are some intelligence strategies that are being put in place to maybe delay the closure of certain nuclear plants, for example, expand the current drilling or the current extraction of fossil fuels to meet the supply-demand imbalance. But that should not stop in any way, shape, or form very strong progress in continuing to develop alternative sources of energy. And we're really proud at Axis to be a great supporter of that, because we're one of the largest underwriters of renewable energy insurance, for example. And so we will support the evolution of alternative energy development as we combat climate change.
Albert, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks.